Hello and welcome back to Shuffle Junkies. I know it's been a little while. I apologize for that. Been doing a lot of other stuff. Mostly obsessively playing Nier Automata. But now I'm pretty much done with that, so back to making Shadowverse content. Anyway, we had a couple of people that were curious about seeing more of the Unbodied Witch with Prophecy of Doom, courtesy of Runie, Destiny's Bard. And since last time it was just a shorty, this time we'll do a proper deck breakdown. The deck has changed greatly since the last one. When I first put this together, it was the beginning of the expansion, and as is common for most new expansions, the meta was much more aggressive. Usually people put together aggro decks when they first get a deck, because that's the easiest to put together one, and then as people start countering aggro, things shift more toward control, and then eventually we settle more in the mid-range area, depending on the meta. That's kind of how this has been going. So, before, we had a lot more ways to deal with aggro, we had a few more tricks to deal with wide boards, but now that things have calmed down a little bit, we see there are a lot more control-oriented or mid-range decks. Like Control Forest, Mid-Range Forest, that's pretty big. Obviously, Mid-Range Sword is still up there, and a few other annoying to deal with decks. But that's fine. The changes have been mostly good, I would say. So, right off the bat, a lot more card draw, but smaller card draw. We're looking more toward cycling, so we got our 3 Insights, of course, 3 Magic Missiles, and the big change is Witch of Foresight has replaced Runie, and I think this is a big one here. Rather than just grabbing spell boost cards, which, if you're in a bind, can be pretty bad because you end up with a 9-drop, or 8 drops, or 9 drops, the best you could hope for is a 2-drop. Like, it's a risky play, Runie. By putting Witch of Foresight in here, we get just spells. It's just going to draw a spell, which has a much wider range. You might get that 8-drop with an unspell-boosted Fiery Embrace, which is no good, but on the other hand, you might get a Nova Flare, Moon and Sun, Absolute Zero Blade, Golem Salt, Wind Blast, Magic Missile, Mysterious Knowledge, or Insight. Much more versatile as a card draw. What else we got in here as changes? I don't remember exactly what I changed, so let's just talk about what's in the deck. So obviously, as I mentioned before, a lot of card cycle. We're looking to get these spells cast to spell boost cards and get more important things from our deck into our hand, most notably Unbodied Witch, Giant Chimera, and Runie, Destiny's Bard. Our win condition is basically Runie into Unbodied, or Prophecy of Doom into Giant Chimera. Just any combination of these 3 cards and the things they do is our big win condition. Everything else is basically control. We have removal in the form of Absolute Zero Blade, Wind Blast, Fiery Embrace. Basically, Chimera is removal. It's 4 damage with a body, which is pretty nice for dealing with those big wide boards, which you're going to see from Mid-Sword and pretty much any version of Portalcraft you might run into. We're going to need Nova Flare, very helpful, and of course putting up walls is Golem Assault. We can either play that for 2 and just get a 2-drop 3/3 ward, or we can go ahead, play it on turn 6 or later, and we get 3 of them. So, very good ward generation. Mysterious Knowledge can generate some wards, otherwise it's generating removal. Sun and Moon is the card that keeps on giving. I really should use my Seer's Globe and activate Sun and Moon. I really like this card. It's in most of my decks at this point. And that's pretty much it, really. I mean, Fiery Embrace is the last of the removal cards. And as I mentioned before, the win condition is play Runie, get Prophecy of Doom, a 15-cost card, spell boost it down at least 5 times. You don't have to go much further than that. And then Unbodied Witch, which we will evolve and attack with, will spell boost it 10 times, making it free. It will also generate enough copies to fill the rest of our hand with and spell boost those 10 times, giving us a bunch of 5-cost Prophecy of Dooms, which after we play the 0-cost one are 4, and then each time we play one, they get reduced by 1 until they're all free. Or we Giant Chimera with 1 Prophecy of Doom, which gives us 7 damage from the Prophecy, and Chimera is usually able to mop up the rest. Well, that's it. That's really it. You really just want to control things, get Prophecy of Doom, and then either Chimera or Unbodied Witch for the win. I really recommend Unbodied Witch, though. That's the good one. Chimera is nice, though, just for versatility. If you have 3 Unbodied Witches and only 2 Chimeras, swap the number there. If you don't have any Giant Chimeras, that could be tricky. It's really nice having that secondary win condition, but you could drop in 3 of those 7/7s with Spell Boost, whose names I always forget. And that would be a fairly decent substitution there. But enough yammering on. Let's see what this deck is all about. Alright. We're going to start and end with Portalcraft. I just happened to go up against a good number of them today for some reason. And going first is often a good thing, but not so much with this deck, because Unbodied Witch. I believe her original name was Faceless Witch, but it's Unbodied. Unbodied Witch does require an evolution point to be effective, so going first, limiting you to 2 evolution points can be kind of tough to deal with. Thankfully, so much of the deck is removal for this very reason. Rather than evolving into something as a trade, you just use a spell to get rid of it, thus saving you an evolution point. One thing that's going to be tough if you're used to just spamming your spells at the face just to get that spell boosting going, removal is premium with this deck. We want to stay alive, we want to keep our health total as high as possible for as long as possible, so you're going to have to be conservative with your magic missiles. So instead of just pinging their face for the draw and the spell boost, do your best to hold on to that for removal, especially if they're Forestcraft, Portalcraft, Bloodcraft, anything that has 1 health minions that tend to be run in the decks. Try and save your magic missiles as pings for those. And otherwise, just try and cast as much as you can. I will waste a few on the face from time to time, just for those spell boosts. We are on a clock, after all. We want Prophecy of Doom to be down to 10 by turn 9, which will be easy enough to do. Now that we're looking at hand with both Prophecy, Unbodied, and Giant Chimera, we don't need to worry very much. We also have 2 Nova Flares, which is very nice against Portal. They have a lot of 1 and 2 health minions, and only so many 3 and up minions, since most of their deck tends to become artifacts as they play. Play a Hakkarabi, that's fine. We still haven't used any of our evolution points, and if they evolve to trade, that just puts them in Nova Flare territory, and if they end up wasting a bunch of artifacts, that's fine too. And since we only need 1 evolution point for Unbodied Witch, there's really no reason not to use 1 now to keep the board nice and clear. So that leaves us with a 5/1 ward up. Not that it matters, they have Acceleratium. And of course they have puppets as well, so that 1 health wasn't going to get us very far. But doesn't really matter. It's turn 9. However, our hand is completely full, and we want to have some room for our extra copies of Prophecy, so we're going to try and dump some cards here. We want at least 3. Because if you cast 3 of these, even if they're at full health, you win. Whereas just doing 14 damage is piddly. Which of course is just another reason to, if you have the opportunity to do a little bit of face damage and whittle them down, getting them 14 is just 1 less Prophecy of Doom you have to cast. Alright, we have all kinds of ways to remove these minions they're playing, so not really concerned. But again, we're trying to empty out our hand pretty quick. Our one big concern is they are portal crafts. The more artifacts we destroy, the bigger their Saphira is going to get. So we do want to make sure we don't get caught off guard by that. There we go. Now we're starting to cook with gas, emptying our hand out rapidly. And I don't want to waste my Prophecy of Doom. I could have cast it, but again, I really want to make a great number of copies of it. I have my own personal win condition, which happens now. Let's go ahead and make a whole bunch of Prophecy of Dooms, 4 of them, giving us 5 total. Get rid of their minion, reduce them all down to 5, except for the one that's free. And we're not going to cast it. I'm going to pile them all on at the same time, like a jerk. Spoilers. I'm going to do this again in another match. I just really like doing it. Alright. Let's click on their leader here. And watch all the effects start to pile up. Prophecy of Doom. Prophecy of Doom. Prophecy of Doom. How about another Prophecy of Doom? Got room for one more? Prophecy of Doom. Ah, it's beautiful. And they're gone. Bye-bye. Alright, Forest Crafts. With the Arya alternate leader art, which I so desperately want, but for some reason can never get. I've opened countless number of boosters and I still don't have that goddamn leader. Anyway, going second this time, which I much prefer. We got Unbodied already, we have a giant Chimera. So now we just need a Runie, and we could win however we can. Try and keep that board as clear as possible. Now the tricky thing is mid-range / control and aggro look very similar these days. Well, that's a lie. They look very similar in the first third of the game. They're both going to be playing things that generate fairies. They both run the Brambles, Pull, and Brambles. Now Fashionista, that tends to be more mid-range / control, but still you might find variants that run it. We'll have to see if they're running Elf Song or not. Or anything else that will buff their fairies. Yeah, I guess this is a bit of a mid-range aggro hybrid deck they're running. I appreciate experimentation. And we got Nova Flare, which is nice. But then we pulled Runie, so I think we're gonna go for the Runie Evolve. I mean, just for the spell boosting alone is kind of worth it. And we have that extra evolution point, so we can go ahead and bring this down to 1 health, meaning Nova Flare can now mop that up. We might be punished for that, though, so... Oh, yeah. An Elf Song here would be very sad. Not sure about that Demon Stress. Elf Song, oh boy. So, the lesson here is, I should have Nova Flared and not played Runie. But we weren't sure what kind of deck it was yet. But now we know. So we could bring him down to just those 2 minions. That's still kind of grim for us at 14 health. Thankfully, Moon and Sun. That could give us some health back, but very little bits. Ooh boy. Yeah, no, this is a fairly aggressive deck here. So it's in situations like this that you're going to be glad you have Giant Chimera. As well as the ability to make wards. But we're still looking at quite a bit of damage next turn. It's going to be very, very tight. Oh yeah. Basically, if we draw Nova Flare, we're okay. If we don't draw Nova Flare, it's over. Plain and simple. We need a Nova Flare. There's no other way for us to deal with this situation. Hey, Nova Flare! Alrighty. Then we're gonna go ahead and plop down a little bit of healing potential. And next turn is turn 9, which means we can Unbodied into Prophecy. Why would I do that over Giant Chimera? Giant Chimera would only get rid of their one minion they have, which Unbodied can do as well, thanks to them trading here. And then that just leaves us with a 6/6 body and nothing else. Whereas Unbodied, we clear the board and we set ourselves up for an easy win by combining Giant Chimera with Prophecy of Doom. Honestly, it might have been better not even to copy Prophecy of Doom and instead do just Chimera here. That way I would have a fleet. I'd have 4/0 cost 4/4s that do 4 damage. Which could have cleared this board. But don't need to worry about that because one Prophecy of Doom with a Giant Chimera is victory. We'll just go ahead and increase the damage going face here and finish the job. Pew, pew, and pew. Ah, good work, Giant Chimera. Good doggy, good doggy. Go ahead and keep Insight. Witch and Chimera are not terrible pulls there. And we're going first again. As I said before, first is not that great with this particular deck. Really want those evolution points. So the game really becomes, can we hold on to at least one evolution point until turn 9? Let's find out. We got Runie. Chimera and Windblast are pretty nice, if we can get Chimera down to cheap enough, that is. But Windblast will definitely help us out in a pickle. And we have Unbodied Witch. So the win condition, right now at least, is definitely a whole bunch of dooms. The longer you go without drawing Giant Chimera, the less likely it's going to be your win condition, just because of how unspell boosted it's going to be. Let's hope we go and pull... we don't. I was really hoping for a Magic Missile. But playing Runie's good enough. It's pretty much an instant removal, so they're going to focus on it. No one's crazy enough to not... Okay, never mind. So they didn't trade there, which is weird. We'll go ahead and clear the board and get a free spell boost out of that. We have 2 wards in hand. We have a Witch of Foresight for some spell draw. Our Chimera is getting pretty cheap, and Windblast is pretty pumped up. Let's go ahead and clear the board with a combination of Chimera and Windblast. So the nice thing about this is we have a 4/4 behind a 2/2 ward. They have no minions. That means if they evolve something, they have to go for the trade with the 2/2, leaving the 4/4 up. They opted not to trade, which I think they'll end up regretting pretty soon because we pulled a Magic Missile. Go ahead and get rid of their 2/3 with our 4/4 and chip away. And considering next turn is turn 8, We have Unbodied Witch for turn 9. We already got Prophecy of Doom down to 9. At this point, I could evolve whatever I want on turn 8. We're okay for our turn 9 Evo point. And our wards have done an excellent job. Honestly, I probably should have Sun and Mooned and evolved it, but I think just putting up another ward is good enough. It sets us up for a very nice turn 9, because now our hand is much more open and ready for a large pile of doom. And I really am all about just playing as many Prophecy of Doom as possible. That's why I'm here. Alright, I like this. Unbodied can go into the 2/2 ward, and Chimera can sacrifice itself to get rid of the 6/3. And the rest of our hand will be dooms. I think this is my record so far, is 6 dooms. Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure my record's 6. I think this is the most dooms I've ever piled on. It's tough to get your hand empty enough to have more than that. Especially if you have 2 Moon and Suns. They're like permanent additions to your hand. They're playing a lot of stuff, but I really don't care about it. Oh, hell yeah. They had to go through all 3 of their evolution points, and we still have 1 left. Alright, well, unless they could do 17 damage on their next turn, which I doubt, we're gonna be okay. 1 doom. 2 doom. 3 doom. 4 doom. That's right, 5 doom. And 6 doom. And we'll go ahead and play a minion just for funsies. I could have traded, but why? I like when they stick around to watch the doom effects go off. Well, alright, that was Unlimited Doom, as I've been calling this deck recently. I think it's a lot of fun. It's basically just another spell boost Giant Chimera deck, but with the versatility that Runie and Unbodied give you, often enough you will end up going for the Doom win. Just because it's more fun, I think. More fun to the point where sometimes I think about removing Giant Chimera, but there's something about pairing up Prophecy of Doom with Giant Chimera that just really increases the odds of victory, so I think it's a good idea to keep them. You can mess around with the volume of Unbodied to Giant Chimera. Again, you can replace Giant Chimera if you don't have Giant Chimera and you're just looking for a way to play Unbodied. I put in... Let's look at the stupid name of that card. It's in another deck. Spell boosting all day. Let's see here. Flame Destroyer. Put some Flame Destroyers in there. Yeah. Of course, there are other substitutions you could put in here. If you have other removal you like besides the Absolute Zero Blade, go for it. I think Nova Flare is a good addition. One thing you might want to put in is if you have Mysteria Founder, that would help a Nova Flare. Doing 3 damage to everything would be great. But it's not a super necessary thing, which is why it's not in here. And we have other decks that are built around Mysteria anyway. I really do like that deck too. I should do a feature on that one. I like increasing spell damage and just comboing out with a whole bunch of face damage with spells. It's basically just an ultra burn deck. But anyway, hope you had fun. If you have any ideas for fun decks, let me know in the comments. And I'll see you next time. And of course, if you're looking for the deck list, it's in the description. So check it out if you want to check it out. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.